Hey guys, so today is going to be kind of a theory-intensive day here on my tech blog. Specifically, we're going to be talking about theories of how poi movement works in 3 dimensions, and more specifically in atomic planes. That phenomenon that happens anytime you orient the planes of the poi not in a parallel fashion, but at a right angle as such, right? A lot of us are familiar with the timing and direction that Maiki Nope pioneered for using atomic planes. But when I was at Burning Man, I got a good chance to sit down and have a bit of a download session with Arashi and go over his perspective on how 3D works. And what I found is that he's got a very, very different system of looking at specifically how poi movement can work that is rooted in a slightly different perspective than Maiki's because it describes something slightly different. But that the two systems are definitely compatible and can be thought of as kind of extensions from each other, yeah? So, first up, a little bit of background. Most of us are already familiar with Maiki Nope's approach to timing and direction in 3 dimensions. If not, here's a little bit of review. Normally when we talk about poi planes, we tend to think of them as being in wall plane, as such, or either buzzsaw or wheel plane, or as there being a horizontal plane, right? Now, anatomists have noticed this tendency of the human body too, and they've noted the same planes and giving them the names the coronal plane, the sagittal plane, and the transverse plane, right? Now, if we move our poi or our hands along any 2 of these planes at the same time, we're going to create really, really interesting clashes or not clashes between the poi and hands. And what's really interesting about this is that we find out that timing winds up being the thing that separates how the poi moves rather than direction. Let me show you what I mean here. If I were to start off moving my right hand in my sagittal plane as such, I could then choose to move my left hand in the coronal plane in one of 3 phasings. I could move it in what Maiki refers to as together L, so named because at the top and bottom of each plane, the hands and poi are meeting together. If you look at it from the side, it looks just like together same. If you view it from the front, it looks like I'm going together opposites, right? Now let's say for the sake of argument that I wanted to freeze my left hand as my right hand is still going through my sagittal plane right here, and rather than moving when they meet up, it's going to move when they are separated as far as possible, in which case I'm going to come up with this movement right here. This is split L. And as you can see from the side, it looks exactly like split time, same direction. If I do this towards the camera, it's going to look like split time opposites, right? Each of these are named for the fact that there's a point in them where they look like standard timing and direction in 2 dimensions, in this case, split time, same direction, or split time opposites, and then they'll immediately alternate into a place where the hands are at a right angle to each other, as such, hence the L. There's one more timing and direction that we can get into that's really, I think, one of the hardest ones, and a few people have contrasted it with quarter time, and I'll have to go through it slow because I'm still not that good at it, but essentially what it involves is rather than phasing them such that they're separated top-bottom, one can be halfway between the 2 points, and therefore I'm going to move in such a respect, that my hands are always at right angles to each other. Hence, infinite L. Now, that said, a few months ago I posted a video wherein I tried to apply all of these to different positions that you can make with the poi. For example, in together L as such, you can move it from in front of you to the side of you, and to your perspective, it looks like what's changed is it's gone essentially from same time, same direction to same time opposites, right? Groovy. So at that point I theorized that there were really only 3 atomics. Now, what the conversation with Arashi brought up to me, which I had never considered before, is that Maiki's system is based on essentially the oscillations of 2 different systems in relation to each other, but not necessarily the way that they directly interact with each other. Let me show you what I mean. If, for example, I'm in a position where my hands are together and I'm doing together L, I can switch my timing to split L, and there's no way that I can possibly perform this without the two poi tethers clashing when my hands get close to each other. In together L, I can bring my hands close together, but in split L, I cannot. There inevitably is a tangle that's going to result in it, right? Okay, well, does that mean that there is no position under which split L can have the two poi that close together? Of course not. If I switch around my arrangement right now such that it looks to you guys like I'm doing split opposites, but if you look down on it from above, you'll see that it is actually split L. I've found a configuration where I can have the two poi moving around each other and they do not clash. This is what Arashi's system is based in. It's almost like thinking about a pair of gears that when they rub up against each other, they can either be moving in a fashion where they move together or move against each other. In Arashi's system, the whole point of it is to find those places where the gears move together. So, for example, when I'm moving in together L, in this fashion right in front of me, Arashi also refers to this as a crane state. And a crane state is not so much a move as it is a position, almost like, you know, a first in ballet, how you always return to a given place when you're moving between different things. Crane just happens to be a shorthand for finding that position where the poi have a certain directional relationship to each other and they aren't clashing in such a way that they're going to tangle, right? And more specifically, if you look down, straight down the front of you, when the poi are on the side away from me, I'm going to have one poi coming up and the other poi going down. To Arashi, a crane is any position in which the poi have one that is going up and one that is going down in this atomic relationship simultaneously, and they are not tangling. An atom is any case where you have both of them moving up at the same time, or both of them moving down. Essentially, there's a multitude of different atomics you can find, but you can label any one of them where they don't mesh up, where they don't tangle, and one's going up and one's going down as crane, and anyone where they're both going up or they're both going down as being an atomic, right? There's a precedence for thinking about this, and most specifically, it's thinking in terms of performing atomic weaves. Most of us have learned these at some point, and what we've found, of course, is that there are some positions where you have to move the poi back and forth in order to avoid them tangling with each other, right? This is the formula for finding those things. In Arashi's perspective, what you want to do actually is anytime you find two clashing planes between the poi, you want to find all of the potential positions you have both for your atomics and for your crane, because those will be the safe zones where you won't tangle up your poi. And of course, you can always think of this in terms of, you know, say I'm moving my hands in together L, there will be a point at which the poi can meet up top, and at that point, I can decide what the atomic clash I'm going to have happen is, whether it'll be an atomic or a crane, depending upon what my hand position is, right? Cool. So, that's a little bit different. Thank you, Arashi, for the long conversation that made all these dots connect for me, and thank all you guys for having the patience to sit through all that. Yeah, so I guess the moral of the story is, when we're thinking about 3D, think both about how the poi interlock as they're moving, and also about the relative timing and direction of them, because these are actually two very, very different states. Arashi's approach is, I would say, pretty timing agnostic, whereas Maiki's approach is almost direction agnostic. So they're kind of opposite approaches for discussing the same thing. Anywho, thank you guys for watching and have yourselves a great week. I appreciate it. Peace.